Getting really fucking sick of this whole progressive bashing that's going around at the moment, mainly carried out by the silver-haired saga holiday older generation whose only friends appear to be Viagra and a fucking early state pension. For some reason they have it in for what they deem to be progressives, but what they think are progressives actually aren't even progressives. They're a caricature from the BBC and from The Guardian of progressives, who are actually the PC police. And it's led to this kind of hatred coming from this older generation. Take a look and see what I mean.
You know, people have said to me, you could go a little easier on progressives. You won't change anyone's mind by insulting them. And that may be true, but you won't change their mind by not insulting them either. So what's the difference?
You're not going to change their mind by insulting them or not insulting them. Isn't this just whinging and complaining for the sake of it?
Talking politics with a progressive is like talking religion with a Jehovah's Witness. If you don't play it for laughs, it will drive you up the wall. Because progressives only hear what they want to hear and what they are determined to hear, regardless of what is actually being said. However clearly and unambiguously you argue for secularism or democracy or free speech or any other civilized value.
How fucking stupid is this guy? Democracy, secularism, freedom of speech, civil values, those are progressive fucking ideas. Does he not understand this? Who are these progressives that he's having a go at, other than the Guardian fucking, caricature?
Progressives will hear prejudice, hatred, xenophobia and racism, especially racism, because it's what they need to hear. Otherwise, they'd have to address the arguments and expose their shameless double standards. This way, they can simply attack your character, which is, of course, what they always do.
Progressives attack him, apparently, because by calling him xenophobic and racist, because they don't agree with what he's saying. Now, if what he's saying is xenophobic and racist, then is it not correct to attack him for it?
And these people shouldn't be insulted? What else is there?
I feel like I'm being taught at by a very stern maths teacher in year 8 who's just sort of pulled you out of class for sticking some chewing gum under the table, and now he's going to tell you how the world really works, and my god, he's going to clamp down on you. Oh, so sad.
If you want to insult a progressive, and frankly, I've yet to meet anyone outside the progressive bubble who doesn't, then you probably know already that a good way to do it is to tell them the truth when the truth is incorrect. It really is the ultimate affront.
Progressives hate the truth. Again, progressives actually want the truth. We seek out the fucking truth. We look for the truth. We look for the evidence. Can you not understand this? Let's see what truth he presents.
And obviously the more incorrect, the better. That's if you feel like a bit of sport, because often they'll struggle even to process the information. So childishly committed are progressives to believing what they think should be the truth, but isn't and never will be.
I must admit at this point I am struggling to process the information, just on the basis that none of it makes any fucking sense. I don't know what he's talking about. What is he going on about? Who is he so annoyed at?
So, for example, oh, and by the way, trigger warning, progressives, you might want to adopt the standard procedure at this point and put your fingers in your ears, if you haven't already.
I need to get bigger fingers.
You could start by pointing out to them that all cultures are not equal, that they're not even close to being equal, and that only somebody who's been hypnotized would think they were.
It's true, actually. Look at the third world. They're not exactly equal to us, are they? And look at the poverty there, and all of the various problems that spring from it. I wonder if he's concerned about that as well.
You could then add that it's perfectly possible for black and brown-skinned people to be racist. They'll hate this because to progressives, if somebody has a darker skin tone, then all criticism of anything they say or do is a far-right hate crime, especially if they speak or behave in a way that invites ridicule and contempt.
Oh god, it's just so stupid at this point. Look, if you base your criticism of somebody on their skin colour purely, then it's wrong and it's racist. If you're basing it on their action, then it's not. Can you understand this? Very simple fucking point. For instance, I would say Barack Obama is a war criminal. He's with the drone campaigns, 7 interventions, etc. The torture by the American troops that he supported, all of this kind of thing. And I would say yes, Barack Obama is a war criminal. It's not that he's a black guy. It's not that you can't criticize him because he's black. Can you understand this? Look at the Saudi royal family. I would criticise them because they run this brutal regime based on Sharia law where they chop off fucking heads of people and stone people and all this kind of backwards retarded nonsense. It's not that you can't criticise people who are a darker skin tone than you. It's that you have to criticise the action and not focus on the fucking race. Can you understand this? It's pretty fucking simple. Does he think, like, black people can get away with absolutely any crime, no matter what, just because they're black? Do they walk into court and go, well, I don't need a defence, black, and then they walk out again? Is this what he thinks? How stupid can you be to think that the world operates like that?
Another good way to get the progressive dander up.
What he really needs suggestions with getting up is actually his penis, given his age.
Is to tell them that nobody has the right to censor anyone else's opinion, however hurt their feelings might be.
Once again, progressives stand up for freedom of speech. Now, hurt feelings are different from something that's, genuinely offensive in every respect. For instance, race hate. You don't understand this. This is more than just upsetting people. It's just being completely fucking offensive. What can you say?
Now, progressives will really hate this one, because they are more inclined than anyone outside religion to believe that your thoughts and opinions are subject to their moral jurisdiction. So whereas a normal person may disagree...
Progressives aren't normal people. They're not normal people. They're in no way normal. They're some sort of degenerate fucking species at this point. Oh god. Coming soon, we're gonna have Attack of the fucking Progressives, like in theatres. Progressives. We're all degenerates, and we're certainly not normal. I'm not normal. That's very true.
With your views, a progressive will disapprove of them. And for progressives, it's never enough to simply disapprove of a thing. It must be banned. You must be silenced. And when you're not silenced, it really does seem to annoy them. So it's always worth rubbing it in whenever you can.
Progressives don't want to ban everything. I think he's getting confused with what he wants to do. It seems like he wants to ban progressives from telling him he can ban things. What is he talking about here? Progressives want to ban him and they want to silence him. I mean, it's tempting, given this. As funny as it is, it's tempting to try and ban this kind of thing. But what would be the point? Then you just drive it underground. Progressives don't want to ban it, or just stop saying stupid things. Think before you speak, find evidence, facts and rationality, and then we don't have a fucking problem. But if you're saying this kind of thing, and people are telling you to shut the fuck up, I kind of see why at this point. Anyway, let's carry on.
Another good way to insult these pseudo-liberal plonkers...
That's a line from Only Fools and Horses, isn't it? Rodney, the pseudo-liberal plonker. Oh, God. Oh, jeez. I mean... Oh. He is right. What he's annoyed at is pseudo-liberalism, but... Oh, God. There's like 5 minutes left of this shit. I'm gonna have to have a fucking cigarette at this point.
No offence, is to tell them that opposing a federal dictatorship in Europe has nothing to do with racism or xenophobia, and that only a malicious and paranoid mind would think otherwise. That should get their malicious and paranoid minds in the highest of dudgeon.
My mind is now in the highest dudgeon available. Oh god, stop talking about the fucking EU as if it's brainwashed fucking progressives. I'm absolutely sick of hearing this. Some of the earliest criticism of the EU came from the left. Look at fucking Tony Benn. You know, this is... Why do we have to part with this kind of nonsense about we love the EU? I don't love the EU. I mean, it's preferable. I'm not going to go into the Brexit thing right now, but fuck, man. You know, there's this idea that, like, we've been so brainwashed by the fucking EU, and what do these people think? What does he think? Like, progressives were marched into school, and fucking primary school, and made to fucking salute the EU flag every morning and pledge allegiance to it. What are they talking about? It's not that I don't like the fucking EU. Now, deposing it isn't necessarily an issue of race or xenophobia. No, that's not the reasons to stand up for any criticism of the EU. The fuck is he talking about? God's sake.
But if you really want to get these self-righteous half-wits apoplectic with fury, then simply point to the Middle East and tell them that the so-called Palestinian problem is self-created and driven entirely by crude Arab, Muslim, Jew hatred as mandated by Scripture.
So there you have it. Israel is not actually a state that's that's supported by America as a place to keep arms as a stronghold in the Middle East with a broader project to take over the rest of the Middle East. It's actually just part of the Arab-Jew conflict, and it's based on the Muslim doctrine. So there you have it. Even though a lot of Jews themselves actually don't believe Israel, the state of Israel, can or should exist, on the basis, Orthodox Jews, on the basis that only the Son of God, God's real messenger on earth, can declare the state of fucking Israel. If you can't see that it's just a military stronghold for America, primarily, and that's the reason that Israel is there, then I don't understand what the fuck you're talking about. Of course the fucking Palestinians are going to fight with them. It's an illegal settlement. And most countries don't support this. Can you not understand? Like, what's going on? Only America that really keeps fucking Israel going. What is he talking about here? Literally don't understand it.
For a bit more spice, you could add that Israel is not an apartheid state, unlike some of its uncivilized neighbours, and that the BDS movement is a poisonous cultural terrorist group full of rancid, anti-Semitic, left-wing fascists. And that is putting it kindly.
Where does this guy get his information from? That's what I'd really like to know. What is he basing this on? Because, of course, Israel is an apartheid state. Now, are other places in the world or other places in that region, are they worse? Yes, probably. But that doesn't mean that Israel is therefore good. You know, two things can be bad at the same time. Can you understand this? Like, it's not that one thing is good and one thing is bad. I mean, it's quite a simple fucking proposition, and there's no basis to support Israel. Can you understand this? Like, what does he not get? Honestly, like, oh, God.
Of course, with the religion of special needs, anything you say can potentially insult progressives.
That would be such a good church, wouldn't it? Can you imagine? Oh god, and the vicar would have to have Down syndrome.
As blaming Islam for anything at all is out of the question. However, since Islam is so clearly to blame for so much, this creates the kind of cognitive dissonance in progressives that we typically associate with religious believers. When reality can't be squared with dogma, they somehow end up believing both and seeing no contradiction. So progressives can see very well that Islam is a massive problem in the West, but it can't be, so it isn't.
Well, in a sense it's true, isn't it? Because look at some of the terrorist attacks, etc. But they don't really understand exactly what he's getting at here. It depends obviously on the interpretation, and when Islam is mobilised for terrorist purposes, obviously it's wrong. Why would it be right? Now, and it comes down to a case of being forced on people as opposed to choice as well. Now, what he seems to envision is that we're all going to be sort of converted to Islam, and we have no choice in it. And liberal progressives support this idea. Well, I don't understand this. I mean, I look at a state like Saudi Arabia. I mean, that has so much criticism you can throw at it, and the reason is because they're following a brutal interpretation of Islam, right? So it's basically Sharia laws, and then again, chopping off people's fucking heads and all sorts. And there's other countries similar to that are doing the same thing, often supported by the West. America supports Saudi Arabia. Not only do they support them, they have sold them arms, continue to sell them arms, and so have the British. So in this sense, and then obviously the 9/11 hijackers themselves came from fucking Saudi Arabia. Some of them did anyway. So, why does he not have a big problem with that? Why does he not write to the British government or even America, get involved there and say, look, you're supporting the worst form of of the interpretation of Islam. It's not that you stand up for it. It's not that liberals are standing up for it or progressives are standing up for it. It's that sometimes it's awful and it's brutal and it's repressive and that's wrong. And sometimes it's just a case of the individual choosing to follow a certain religion in the same way they can follow other religions, and it's not forced on them. Now, to say like this massive imagined threat that Islam's going to take over everything and we have to stop it, but what is he really getting at here? Does he have a problem with Islamic terror? Does he have a problem with just Muslims who don't really affect anybody? What's his problem?